Hello, and welcome back to the studio. I'm Dr. Wiggo, and today we're going to talk about a new game, Metaphor ReFantazio. Terrible name, fantastic game. Now, to save y'all a lot of time, if you played Persona 5 and loved it, and you like fantasy JRPGs like Final Fantasy 16, you don't need to watch this. You can just go play the game because it is amazing. I don't have anything to hold because it was a digital download. This game snuck up on me. I wasn't following. I didn't know anything about it. And then the demo showed up in the PlayStation Store. It's also available on Xbox and PC. It's just amazing. And the scores are amazing. The Metacritic, I think, on the PS5 version, it's like a 94. And on the Xbox, it's 92. And on the PC, it's 91 or 93. They're all in the 90s. And a lot of the reviews you go look at are 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. It's getting fantastic reviews. It's an amazing game. As always, first I'm going to tell you the story about how I came to get into all these games. And you probably don't care about that, unless you're one of my truly loyal subscribers. Hi, Tim. So just go ahead and skip on to the next chapter where I'll talk about the story of the game. And then the chapter after that, I'll talk about the gameplay. And then the chapter after that, I'll talk about ancillary things like the art and the music and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll give you my final thoughts after that. So feel free to skip on. But first, let me tell you how I came to love these games. Longtime viewers of the channel know that when I got my PS3 back when it first came out, one of the first JRPGs I ever played was Hyperdimension Neptunia. Well, here's Neptune right here. And it was one of my favorite games ever. And it was compile heart, and so it's like low budget, and they reuse a lot of things, and it wasn't that impressive. Then I would stumble forward and I ran into the Square Enix games. And there's some really fantastic games there too. Final Fantasy, all these kind of games, which are much more larger in scope. But after that, I discovered Atlus. And I think the first Atlus game I played was one of their terrible games, one of their early games, the one where you ripped people's clothes off. It was stupid, but it was entertaining. But then I discovered Persona. And Persona was amazing. And Atlus also does Shin Megami Tensei. And I got into that. I just finished Shin Megami Tensei 5 a few months ago. I don't know if I did a video. By the way, I will link all of my gaming videos down below so you can go see my reviews of all these games. And I left out the most important one. Falcom. The Trails series, which I got into via Trails of Cold Steel when it came out. And of course, now we're all the way up to Tales of Daybreak. In fact, there's the Trails games back there. And Atlus stole some really good ideas from Trails through Daybreak. So this game it was made for me. And it might have been made for you. If you love Persona, like I said, well, let's just go ahead and get into the story. So if you like Persona and Shin Megami Tensei also, they're both Japanese high school games. You're high school kids in present day Tokyo, and then they go into these fantastic places and discover these fantastic enemies, and all this cool stuff happens. That's not this game. What if the Persona system was used in a hack and slash swords and sorcery, knights and dragons kind of game? Well, that's this game. And it's amazing. Before I get into the details of the game, this is not a review because, as I've told you on this channel before in some of those videos I've linked down below, I only review games after I beat them. And this game came out Friday, October 11th. So I have only played the demo and the very beginning of the game. So I can't really review it, but I can tell you the hours I put into it. The demo is the whole prologue, so it's fairly lengthy. You get many hours of great gameplay out of it. But that's as far as I've gotten. So this is not a review. But bearing that in mind, let's get to the story. It's set somewhere. It's a fantasy. It's not like the Falcom games where the main character has a name and everything, but it's also not like Shin Megami Tensei where the main character doesn't talk, isn't voiced. This main character is voiced, but you name him. You name yourself first. The game asks you who you are, and later the game asks you who the protagonist is. So you can have two different names, your name, the player name, and the character name. Sidebar. At the very beginning of the game, you're signing up for something and they ask you why you would be good at this, and you have a series of possible responses. I'm fast, I have a quick mind. What you answer determines your starting stats. So if you want to be a mage and have more magic, then you have to say I have a quick mind. So, and it'll set your starting stats different. You can go look it up online how that all works. So the story is you're an Elda. You're a member of a race in this world that has like 8 or 9 races, and your race is the lowest of the low. You're like an outcast. Nobody wants to talk to you. And then there's all these different races. There's people with horns out of their head. They're near the top of the list. Everyone discriminates on everyone below them. So part of the story is kind of a morality tale where it's about discrimination. And again, I'm not going to spoil anything. Well, I've only played the first few hours of the game, so I can't really spoil anything. I don't really know what's going to happen. But I do know that at the very beginning, the king is murdered. It leaves the country with all these races in it in a tizzy. Oh, there's a lot of social commentary in here because there's also a major state-sponsored religion who's trying to control things and doing things. And you being an elder, you don't like the church because the church preaches that your people are basically untouchable and bad luck and nobody should talk to you. So the church discriminates against you most of all. So it's kind of, there's some religious overtones, there's political overtones, the king is murdered, and you're on a mission, which gets explained to you along the way, having to do with, turns out the king's son, the prince, who is assumed dead, is not dead, but is in a coma and has been cursed. And so you're trying to figure out a way to get rid of the curse so that the prince can come back and take over for his father and rule the country. But things take a turn, as they often do in these kind of games. So that's the story. It's fairly straightforward to start, and then it very quickly becomes, Byzantine. The gameplay. This is not an open world JRPG where you can just run around and do whatever you want. In fact, like Persona, it's on a calendar. And so you have limited time to get things done, and so you have to prioritize. Do you spend your free time working on your virtues, which will help you in certain ways? Or do you do side quests, which will help you in other ways? Or do you do bonding events, which help you in yet other ways? And so there's all these things that you got to do. And like Persona, with the personas, you have archetypes, basically job classes. And there's lots of them. And any character can essentially end up being any one of them if you have enough money and all the other things you need to upgrade. It's a fascinating system. The archetypes they give you different stats. They turn you into these creatures with all these powers. And it's just, I love this game. It's very linear. And again, there's a timetable, so you have to pick like where you go. And on the overworld is this intricate little map with little moving things on it, and you pick your location and you move. And it takes time to travel between destinations. So early in the game, you spend like 3 days going somewhere. So you lose 3 days of your gameplay just getting to where you start the game. Things like that. And then like if you go into a dungeon, almost every dungeon is going to cost you a day. So the trick is don't leave the dungeon. So you stay in the dungeon until you've done everything you need to do, because once you leave, you've lost a day. And then you move on to the next thing. And there are key events, story events that take place with, deadlines. And so every so often you have to go do the story thing, and then you get your free time to do the other things like Persona, except you're not going to see movies or fixing VCRs or doing all that kind of stuff. No, you're doing swords and sorcery stuff. I cannot tell you how much I am loving this game. And like I said, I just started, but I can't wait to get back to it. In fact, I'm kind of happy I'm doing this video because now I have to go play through the game to capture the clips that you've been watching while I've been talking. So I get to play through the game again and maybe try some different choices. Because again, your choices matter. What you say to people matters. You say certain things to certain characters and you get bonuses and your bond ranks up. Or you don't because you said the wrong thing and annoyed them. But like I said, that question at the beginning, that matters. It sets your starting stats. So that's how you get around. Now, once you get places like into a dungeon where you're going to fight, then they've borrowed the Trails Through Daybreak system, where in the dungeons you can fight in the overworld. And if the enemy's weaker than you, you can just kill them. If they're above you, if you can stun them, you can go into the turn-based system with an advantage. But if they stun you, you go in with a disadvantage. Now, in Trails Through Daybreak, that disadvantage isn't so big. In this game, you do not want to go into these turn-based battles with a disadvantage because they can kill you before you have a turn, especially if you're on the harder difficulties. You know me, I play on easy the first time. I have gotten game overs in easy because it's that complex, and if they get to go first, and if you pick the wrong things and don't hit their weakness. So the turn-based battle system it's the same as Persona, basically. You target enemies' weaknesses, and you have spells and different characters, and you have strength-based characters who do slash attacks and all that kind of stuff. And of course, if you target a weakness, then it extends your turn a little bit, just like in Shin Megami Tensei. So the ideal is to target weaknesses. Now, they give you a little leg up in this game. There's a restart the battle, but remembers their weaknesses. So if you get screwed because you couldn't figure out their weakness fast enough, you can restart the battle and start hitting their weaknesses right away. It saved me more than once. But the battle system is great. It's Persona. If you like the battle system of Persona, you'll like the battle system here. If you like the battle system in Shin Megami Tensei 5, you'll like the battle system here. It's very similar. It's just amazing. The gameplay is tons of fun. Speaking of which, let's talk about the art and the music. The battle themes are amazing.
Be careful. We have the edge. This could be our chance.
Get ready.
The music is good in general, like it is in all Atlus games. And the art style, it's the anime art style of Persona 5, the 3D models, but then all the dialogue is 2D, where there's a little picture of the person, by the way, whose mouth moves, and then the text. Oh, and a lot of it is voiced. Not everything, like all JRPGs, but the protagonist is voiced. And when you have like 5 things you can say, whichever one you pick, he'll say out loud. There's a book that figures prominently in the story, and that's a different art style when they're reading the book. So you have all these different art styles, like the map of the overworld is one art style, and the cutscenes are pure anime type things, and they are gorgeous and well drawn. The character designs are amazing, especially the enemies. They have some really weird enemies who incidentally are called humans. They don't look human. They're like grotesque. So the art style, the characters, the development, people love this game. I love this game. I think you will love this game if you liked Shin Megami Tensei 5 and or Persona. If you liked them both, even better. You might even like it if you liked Final Fantasy 16, although, again, this is anime, so people look like cartoons. The artwork is fantastic, but I am loving it. The being able to kill the lower level enemies without going into the turn-based battle, you can usually one-shot them. And even if they're higher level, like I said, if you can stun them, you can go in with an advantage, and it makes the turn-based battle much shorter. You only have to take a few turns instead of going through the whole cycle. And if you get through a turn-based battle without being hit, you get a bonus. All your spoils of battle go up. Experience, everything. So it's just a fantastic game. I cannot tell you how much I love it. Well, I guess I just told you how much I love it. So I guess I can. I can't go into a lot of detail because I haven't played that far. But what I've played, and it's not high school. That was the one thing I hated about Persona. And apparently, from what I've heard from other reviewers, people who got the game early and got to play all farther through, the timing system isn't as bad. Like in Persona, if you didn't follow a guide, you couldn't get everything done. In this game, several of the reviewers were able to max out all the bonds and get all the archetypes and do all that stuff in their first playthrough. So it's possible, and apparently it's not quite as fastidious as Persona 5 was, where if you missed one thing, if you didn't go do one event, well, then you're not getting the good ending. This one's easier. Allegedly. I don't know. That's it for this week. iOS 18.1 with Apple Intelligence is coming very soon. I think it's in like a week or two. So be looking for that video. That'll be coming up shortly. There may be a Vision Pro video coming soon too. So come back for that. That's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye. I'm going to go play some more Metaphor ReFantazio. Thanks for staying to the end. Bye-bye.